Welcome to another month of TWC Meets the Artist, a series of in-conversations with local artists. I'm Danielle Ashek, CEO of the Women's Club. The Women's Club has been meeting on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation for 120 years, the traditional custodians of the land who have been meeting and sharing stories for thousands of years. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Tonight, the Women's Club will present our Board of Director, Augusta Supple, in conversation with the extraordinary Sara Mansour. Sara is the co-founder and director of Bankstown Poetry Slam. A practicing lawyer and also a performing poet, she uses her practice and her art to shed light on issues of political and social importance. Sara won the Young Citizen of the Year in the Canterbury Bankstown region and also Outstanding Youth Leader at the Zest Awards in 2017. In 2018, she was selected to be a mentor for the Sydney Writers Festival Youth Curators Program and also delivered a TEDx talk in Parramatta on the inception of the Bankstown Poetry Slam. In that same year, she was selected to partake in the YouTube Creators for Change project alongside other members of the Bankstown Poetry Slam group. And in 2019, she was selected as a writer for the ABC iView show Halal Girls and was nominated for the Young Woman of the West Award. Please join me in a virtual round of applause as I hand over to Augusta and Sara.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for that warm welcome, and welcome, Sara. And we've also got a special guest appearance here. Who is this that we're meeting today?
This is Alia. Thank you so much for having us both.
Oh, it's so lovely to meet you, Alia. And thank you, Sara, for making time in your busy life to have a little bit of a chat with us this evening. I've been a long time fan of yours, and I'm absolutely unabashed in saying that. I think I've been following and loving your work since about 2014 or so. So I thought what I'd do is I just ask Danielle to share a YouTube clip of one of your poems called My Australia. So if Danielle, you could make some magic for us, we'll watch a little piece of your work before we dive into the chat this evening.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if I can hear that. Can anyone else hear that? Not at the moment. Danielle, do you mind if you just rewind and we'll just check the sound settings? Oops, I don't think we can hear that either. That's so funny. We had such a good time in sound check this evening.
I'm happy to just perform it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so
yeah.
When people ask me where I'm from, I tell them Punchbowl. More often than not, they smile and say, no, where are you from? I sigh, roll my eyes, and in explanatory tone, I say, Punchbowl, you know, near Bankstown, the city where mouths do not ebb the flow of welcome in over 60 different tongues, where over 100 nationalities are housed under one postcode. This is my ode, Alia. This is my ode to the own. Okay, how about we lay down here? How about we lay down here? Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. This is my ode to the only place I know where no one is told to go back because everyone understands. This is my ode to home. My Australia is walking through the streets of Punchbowl with the smell of freshly roasted Lebanese coffee, kissing the Asian bakeries good morning. The eucalyptus towers overhead and the frangipanis scent my breath as we sing the unofficial national anthem. I come from a land down under, living from beat to beat, bumping down the streets with chupak on our tongues, and we're headed for the beach. Water, so unapologetically salty to the eyes, but we take it in our stride, remembering all the lessons at Greenacre Pool and at school when Cronulla hit high tide. My Australia is barbecues, or as my dad still says, barbecue, meat sizzling on the fire, homemade tabbouleh and tomato sauce, pavlova cake and knefe, the perfect cultural dichotomy. And it's not hard to see, no matter our creed, we always rep our team, #Wanderers FC. This country will never be tainted by cafe sieges. We will always ride together from the mountains where the bushfires rage. We stand together down to the shore where the lifesavers age under that great southern sun. My Australia is one where women wear their saris and their colourful hijabs proudly. Men don sweat-stained collars like war badges. You can get the best fur in Sydney, the realest Lebanese and Chinese, and you feel at ease because no one judges your garlic breath or that the bull is stuck in your teeth. It's a space where you can find the most authentic spices in shops where signs in foreign languages sit like jeweled crowns atop their doors. It is neighbours passing barbecued meat over the fence and always saying hello. It is all the stoic traditions. It is stoic. A community that's been hardened by media headlines. It is targeted. It is judged. It is 3 a.m. sirens and perceived thugs. But it's also where the call to prayer gently interludes with the ringing of church bells. See, it's coexistence and artistic resistance, like the 4 Elements Youth Hip Hop Festival and the largest poetry slam in the country. It's my dad's voice, 25 years on. Accent thick with resilience and warm like an autumn breeze, smelling of petrol and truck smoke and all the forgotten things, all the za'atar and the tahine and the crushed petals that were once dreams, saying to me, we are lucky. And in fact, we are lucky. It's not perfect, but it's home. It will never be perfect, but it will always be home. My Australia is home when the rest of the world says no. Thank you. All right.
And round of applause for you. And also, I think extra clicks and extra ups for Alia's background serenade.
Yeah.
And also, Sara, like really, you've just demonstrated what it means to be an artist in Australia right now and to be the power of the woman who's juggling absolutely everything.
Absolutely.
That was just so beautiful. The things that I love about that poem and that performance, and that I'll share with everyone the video link as well, so that you can just keep enjoying the rhythm of it, the sound of it, the flavors, the smells, is that it is such a beautiful portrait of Bankstown, such an incredible real portrait of what it means to be inclusive, I guess. And that is so powerful. And I guess that's why so many people love that poem. What made you write that poem? Where did it come from? When did it come from?
Yeah, so I went through a few iterations of that poem. I think the first time that I wrote it, I was actually invited to an Australia Day ceremony. Alia, this is my time, Mama, not yours. Stop trying to talk. I was invited to an Australia Day ceremony, and that just kind of got me thinking about how the version of Australia that I experience is so different to the Australia that other people experience, and coming from a perspective of Western Sydney always being kind of like scrutinized and never celebrated, and this is like, you know, we're talking probably I wrote the first version of that poem like 7 or 8 years ago, so you know, Western Sydney wasn't the hot thing back then. It was still very much a place where was kind of seen as derelict by the rest of Sydney. So it was kind of my ode to the only place that I kind of felt like I could walk around safely and not be like, you know, because people stare. And when I'm in my area, at least I know they're staring because they think I'm hot, not because they think I'm a potential security threat, you know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of boiled down to that. And I wanted to celebrate the beauty in the multiculturalism that we pride ourselves on.
It's an amazing portrait, and I think it's also interesting that you say that, you know, Western Sydney is so hot, and people have a certain idea or notion about what Western Sydney is as well. When you think about at the time creating Bankstown Poetry Slam, can you tell us a little bit about that that experience? Like what where did it come from? How did it happen? What is it basically?
Yeah, of course. So for those who haven't ever been to a poetry slam, basically it's a monthly gathering. Hey. I'm just gonna, you know what I might do? I might just switch this and just walk around with her a little bit, if that's okay. All right. Okay. So sorry. It's a monthly gathering of people who like to perform poetry and do it in a competitive style format. So normally we gather at the Baseline Arts Centre on the last Tuesday of every month, and we have people come sign their names up on the evening, and they have a 3-minute time limit to perform their original poetry. And we get random members of the audience to judge, and it's really, really good fun. And so I actually got into spoken word poetry because for me it was the most accessible form of art that I could get into. It didn't really cost anything. You know, it didn't really need an investment in any kind of skills. You just needed to have something to share and really like mediocre writing skills. So I kind of got into it at the end of 2012. And I think I had this really, I was 19, so I had this really deep seated desire to like be known and to feel like I belong somewhere and to express myself and to, you know, change the world and contest all of the stereotypes that people have about Muslim women. So there was a lot of different influencing factors that motivated me to get into poetry, and specifically spoken word poetry, because you get that gratification of being just able to, you know, see people's responses and have them click and have them come up to you afterwards and have that instant connection. And for me, that was really rewarding. So I started performing in kind of like, there were events in Newtown in the city. And for me, it just wasn't accessible because most of those events were in bars. And being from a Muslim background, I just didn't feel comfortable. I don't drink, so I didn't feel comfortable being in those environments where everyone was drinking except me. And also I'm the eldest of 8, so I wanted to be able to bring along my younger siblings and have them experience it as well. So that's when my friend Ahmed and I decided we should look into whether there were any events like that in Western Sydney. And when we found out that there weren't any, we were like, okay, cool, let's just start one ourselves. And, you know, it's like, it's funny because people ask how it came to be that we started the largest poetry slam in the country. And really, it wasn't by any like intelligent design or really any great marketing or anything. It literally was because the area needed it. The people in Western Sydney needed that. And it spread purely through word of mouth. And it was just, I think there was such a deep desire for everyone in my community and other like kind of marginalized communities to feel heard and seen. And I think that's what made the poetry slam in Bankstown grow to what it is today.
So I remember attending, Sara, back when there would be, basically it would be hot, close in the room, and I would be surrounded by people who, and when you say clicking, I just want everyone to know that what usually happens when someone is saying a poem is that if you like a line, you basically do this, which is you're clicking approval as the poem is rolling along. And what I loved about it was this incredible, generous support where the audience is so active in their listening. They're there with you the whole time, just clicking you along to say, oh, I like that line. Oh, that sounds really great. And, you know, chunks of watermelon and, and, you know, this sort of heat that would come out of this passion. That would
palpable.
Really, really powerful. And since that time, Sara, I've seen you fill out the Art Gallery of New South Wales's theatre. I've seen you host in the International Convention Centre, Darling Harbour, like a 900-seat audience with international guest slam poets. I've seen you host a time at the Brian Brown Theatre, where Brian Brown was there with Michael Lynch, sitting there, these grown men crying as they're listening to these poems. And I'm just wondering if you can just sort of step us through some of those moments. Like, how did this grow? Like you say, it wasn't by any grand design, but
yeah. So I think like the first rule that Ahmed and I had when we started the Poetry Slam was that anyone was welcome to talk about anything. And we really just, one thing that we did work hard at was creating a space that felt safe and nurturing, so that people could, anyone could in fact come and talk about anything. And we just wanted to allow people to access a platform that they normally wouldn't be able to access, to be able to express themselves. So I guess like once we realized what the need was in the community for this event and for this space, we started to kind of develop greater aspirations. And I went to the States in 2013. It was like a post-breakup, solo adventure. And I got to go to the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, and they were talking about having a Grand Slam. And it was really my exposure to that like inspired the idea of having a Grand Slam in like for the Bankstown Poetry Slam. And of course we didn't want to call it the Grand Slam then, so we called it the Poetry Olympics, except I didn't know that at the time that was an infringement of the Olympic Insignia Protection Act. So that was fun. We got to use it for that year, and then we changed it to the Grand Slam. But yeah, I think once we saw that we could do it, and having it at the art gallery and having the ABC cover that story, and seeing shy, timid Muslim women that wear hijabs, or people from culturally diverse backgrounds start to like really find their voice and find their confidence and start to like really come out of their shells, I thought we need to keep doing this. And so the next year we held the event, I think as well at the art gallery, but then after that it was at Lower Town Hall. And we just used it as an opportunity to fly in international artists that we like, and we just kind of had a personal bias that we wanted to meet. And yeah, it's just I can't tell you, I think that I really feel that when you do things with pure intentions and you with a genuine care for people, then no matter what it is that you're doing, whether it's a poetry slam or a cooking class, or you're an executive in a corporate firm, that genuinity and that care transcends into every part of the organization or the environment that you're a part of. And so I think that that's probably why the Poetry Slam has been so successful, because the team that work with me are just so passionate and so amazing. And they do genuinely care about elevating these voices and giving them a home.
It's really inspiring to be around, and also always surprising because I guess there's a really strong political element to slam poetry. And I think that especially in the last few years, where there's been a sort of a political fracturedness, it really has been able to give voice to people who might feel unrepresented in the conversation at all. You've also been a practicing lawyer, and I have absolutely no idea how you've managed to balance the juggernaut that is Bankstown Poetry Slam, your own artistic practice, plus a sort of a career. How really is the big question? Or
yeah, that's a good question. And like, if I'm being honest, I probably would say that I wasn't really prioritizing my own health and my own relationships. So something has to give when you're doing all of that, right? And for me, I think it was my own well-being. So I like started off at a top tier firm. And in that same year, I was not only getting married, but also planning the Grand Slam at Town Hall. So I had taken on too much on my plate. And I think I was probably, I had developed some anxiety, and I was not as productive as I needed to be at work. And one of the partners pulled me up about it and said, you don't really seem like your mind is here. You always kind of seem like you're elsewhere. And that's the truth. You know, I kind of was always elsewhere. I was always thinking about, oh, I need to like order my wedding dress, or I need to book this month's photographer for the slam and stuff. So I've learned to delegate a lot more, because I was not doing that well enough, and, you know, suffering as a consequence. And I've learned to say no. I think those are the two things that have helped me maintain my sanity, really. But then, like, now that I'm on maternity leave, I know it's so ironic, but I'm like, I have all these, I have space now to breathe, and I'm like, got all these ideas, and I started a brunch blog, and, you know, I want to run a Muslim women's symposium next year. And when I have time, I just get excited again. And I feel like there are so many things that I want to do, and I just have to remind myself to slow down.
Absolutely. I think that's something that many women who are on this call would recognize, definitely, that sort of the scale of ambition, but also the responsibilities, and where does self fit into all of that.
Yeah.
A few years ago, you did a little bit of a little bit of a turn, in that you ended up being a TV writing do a bit of TV writing, and you're also in Halal Girls.
Yeah.
Want to tell me a little bit about how that came to be, and what was that experience like, going from the live experience of, you know, the immediacy of slam poetry into that medium?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I've always loved writing, but I didn't go to a school that nurtured my ability to write. So then I think that I thought that I wasn't a good writer, or I wasn't creative. And it wasn't until I fell into it again that I realized, oh, actually, yeah, I'm pretty good at this. So my first job out of high school was at Hijab House, which is a Muslim women's clothing brand that was in Bankstown. And Von Patiag, who's the producer on Halal Girls, used to do the videography for like the marketing promotions for Hijab House. So that's how I met Von. And he had involvement in Hijab House over a number of years, and would kind of like lurk in the background when, you know, in between takes and stuff, and just listen to the girls and listen to the sassy conversations and, you know, the gossip and the drama. And I think that he like really loved it and developed a penchant for it. And I was like, oh, this could be something. Because I think whenever Muslim women are represented in mainstream media, they're always either like the victim, or they're silent, or they're sexualized. And so when they invited me to be part of the writer's room, I agreed on the basis that, you know, Mona, the main character, wouldn't be any of those things. And we really wanted to write the types of characters, not that we wanted to see, but that we just knew existed. Like, you know, we wanted to write the truth. So I had, what we ended up doing was we spent a lot of time in the writer's room, just like doing character development and really like solidifying who Muna would be, and the things that she would say and the things that she wouldn't say, and what she likes and what she wears and stuff like that. So she was really real for me. And then we ended up splitting up so that each person wrote an episode, and I wrote the one in the elevator. And it's really kind of just, it's obviously satirical, but draws on a lot of my experiences working in a top tier firm, where you kind of feel like you're hired almost because you're diverse, but then your diversity isn't celebrated. It's kind of like, you just like, oh, put the Muslim girl in the corner to drink her sparkling water, you know? So yeah, like it's just weird. Like I would always be invited to like Friday night drinks, and I don't relate, and I just stand there for like 10 minutes, eat the vegetarian canapé, and then run away. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I think what I loved so much about Halal Girls is that all of the characters inside that TV show, which is available, I think, on iView or
YouTube as well.
And YouTube. It's so interesting how, like you use the word sassy. I think sassy is quite a good term. But also ambitious as well. Like the women there are very ambitious and also fun and funny and very real. And there's a lot of joy about Halal Girls, I think, as well, but also touching on some very sort of real elements. I'm wondering if you've been bitten by the TV bug now and you want to write some more, or what some of your upcoming projects might be.
I would love to. I've really been thinking a lot about writing a love story. I'd love to see, you know, a Muslim couple represented in like a TV show or a movie, and one where the man doesn't have a mullet and, you know, enunciates. I think that would be really nice, because most of the Arab men that I know are so eloquent and so sensitive and really lovely, and you don't see that either. So yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, but what I'm focusing on now is what we were meant to do in 2020, but that COVID thwarted, was the National Youth Festival and National Youth Poetry Slam. So we've got funding to do that, and that's going to happen before June next year. So I'm just working on that at the moment. And also kind of just thinking about all the other things that I want to do. Like I mentioned, a Muslim Women's Symposium. I think that would be really cool, because growing up, I didn't really know any successful Muslim women, and there are so many in business, in like corporate Australia, but also just self-made women. And I think it would be really nice to have them all together, and for young girls to see themselves in them, because, like, you know, they say if you can't see it, you can't be it. So
exactly. I was going to ask you who have been the women in your life who have inspired you, and, you know, about what that community looks like.
So my old boss at Hijab House, his best friend was a corporate lawyer at Allen's, which is where I was working, and he introduced me to her, and that was the first hijabi lawyer that I had met, and I had been doing my degree for a few years. I just, you know, like, for me, meeting her was so inspiring, and I was so excited by it, because I started off my degree actually not even thinking that I would be able to get a job in a big law firm, and not even setting my sights that high. I really thought that I should just be realistic in my aspirations, and, you know, I was scared that I wouldn't even get a job. Like that was a real concern for me. So seeing her success really bolstered my ability to kind of, I guess, see myself as in that role and be successful. So Fatima, definitely. And then I think just more broadly, I'm really inspired by a lot of the women that I've met through the Poetry Slam. So Yasmin Lewis and Sara Saleh, two people that are just absolutely brilliant and inspiring. Sara does a lot of advocacy in kind of like the Palestinian space, and has just finished her Juris Doctor, and is an extremely accomplished poet and writer. Has won a number of prizes this year, the Judith Wright Prize, and another one which escapes me now. And Yaz is equally just as inspiring, and had kind of started doing videography for the Poetry Slam as a hobby, and is now doing like content creation for legal aid. So she also studied law and is kind of marrying her two passions now, which is absolutely amazing, and she's just so good at it. And I'm really inspired by their tenacity and by all that they've achieved.
The thing is, you're a part of this incredible moment that I've been watching over the last few years, Sara, and I just see the hundreds of young women who are following in your footsteps and who are inspired by your example. And now that you are also leading this new generation that we see with us this evening as well, I just wanted to acknowledge your leadership and your mentorship of the community, and also the community of artists as well, and thank you for that. So thank you so much for chatting with me this evening. It always goes super quickly. We'd love to invite you to come and join us for mineral water and a vegetarian canapé here at the Women's Club in Sydney. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to share some of the links of Sara's work and some of my favourite bits and pieces that I've seen over the years. Unfortunately, there's no clip of Malcolm Turnbull giving you an award, which I think also happened a few years ago as well. So you've been recognised by a Prime Minister as well for your contribution to Western Sydney and to the arts community and your leadership. So thank you for your time this evening, and I hope you keep safe and well.